So we're now a couple weeks into Packers training camp, and earlier today there was an article put out by Bill Huber of Sports Illustrated, and he goes over some of his insights so far from Packers training camp, going over specifically some of these rookies. So he goes through every single rookie, what he's seen at practice. If you want to see everything he has to say about the rest of the players, I'm going to leave his article from Sports Illustrated at the top of the description section, so feel free to go check that out. And if you guys are new here, you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter at LukeBeller3. But first off, he discusses Packers first rounder from this past year, Jordan Morgan. Here's what he says. You remember the whole arm length thing. Morgan was a 3-year starting left tackle at Arizona, but has arms especially short by NFL tackle standards. Can he join the extremely short list of starting tackles with arms shorter than 33 inches? At this point, that question is irrelevant. Morgan spent the offseason playing right and left tackle and right and left guard. During training camp, however, Morgan has been a one-position player. It's early, obviously, and 2 sets of joint practices and 3 preseason games will weigh heavily, but Morgan has moved ahead of Sean Ryan at right guard. He took the #1 reps for all 3 days of practice this week. Then he has a quote here from Matt LaFleur. I think every day he's learning something new, Coach Matt LaFleur said on Thursday, and he's taken his lumps sometimes along the way, which is to be expected. But he certainly has everything you look for in a guy that could play in this league for a really long time. Just the athleticism. He just has to learn how to compete down in and down out versus really good competition. So when Jordan Morgan was drafted, I think there was a debate as to where he was going to play because there were some different question marks when it came to this Packers offensive line with David Bakhtiari gone. Would Rasheed Walker be able to hold on to that left tackle spot? Or would Jordan Morgan come in training camp and be able to beat Rasheed Walker and sort of change the way that this offensive line looks heading into 2024 when you compare it to last year? And one of the biggest things, I think, the fact that Morgan has really solidified himself at right guard and not playing a tackle, I think shows how much confidence the Packers have in Rasheed Walker, who has really developed into a solid left tackle. And considering it is Morgan's first year, maybe he starts off this year at right guard and then eventually moves to tackle. I think that's a possibility. But right now, I think the Packers, their whole goal is just to find who is the best offensive line, who are the best 5 guys that will protect Jordan Love the best and, create running lanes for Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, Marshawn Lloyd, potentially Emmanuel Wilson. So I think that now Morgan has pushed himself ahead of Sean Ryan at right guard, at least in the past few practices, is a good sign because, when you spend a first-round pick on someone, you would hope that they would be able to push himself into the starting lineup. So it looks like he already has early in training camp, and we'll keep an eye on the rest of the battles, the rest of camp, and see if he holds that spot at right guard or if they try him somewhere else. Then the second player he goes over, second-round linebacker Edan Cooper. The assumption was Cooper would push past veteran Eric Wilson for a starting spot in the base defense and potentially challenge Isaiah McDuffie for a spot in the 2-linebacker nickel package. Instead, Cooper has been unable to make any headway against Wilson, who is having a tremendous training camp. It's not that Cooper has been bad. His athleticism is obvious, and he's a lot stronger at the point of attack than you might think when you look at his frame. Young linebackers are stressed by all the eye candy offenses used to have defenders looking the wrong way. It's the same thing as college, Cooper said after sitting out Thursday's practice with a hip injury. All the motions and stuff try to knock you off your alignment and try to get your eyes dirty and have you looking at the wrong thing. At this point, I'm getting used to it. Every once in a while, you might get knocked off, but as long as you focus on your assignment, I feel like you'll be fine. So I think at this point, it seems like Edan Cooper he clearly has not pushed himself into the Packers starting defense at this point. If I would have guessed a few weeks ago, I would have said that he probably would have just because of where he was drafted. And so right now at this point, both Eric Wilson and Isaiah McDuffie are still ahead of Cooper. And I think for rookies, it just takes different guys time to develop and pick up things, pick up the offense, pick up the defense. And while you would like a guy to just come in right away and be able to handle everything, it doesn't always happen that way. And that's not to say that they can't eventually figure it out. But sometimes it just depends on the player, how quickly they're able to adapt and get ready and, be prepared to go in and play in an NFL defense. And so right now it's only a couple weeks in. We'll see if Cooper can push himself into the starting lineup in the next couple weeks. But if he doesn't, it doesn't necessarily mean, it's a bad pick by the Packers. It's so early in his career. Even if he didn't start this year, There's no telling that maybe he could, get some more experience as the year goes on and then maybe start next season. But we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But so far, Cooper not pushing himself into the starting lineup there with McDuffie and Eric Wilson ahead of him. And then I'm actually going to end it off here with the end of the second round. As I said, if you want to read the rest of this, I'm going to link it in the description so you can go over the rest of the players. But here we have the second round pick. Second round safety, Javon Bullard. Bullard is part of the wide open competition to be the safety opposite Xavier McKinney. Through 9 practices, he has taken the number 1 reps in 4, including Thursday. So almost half, a little less than half of the practices he has been next to safety Xavier McKinney. He's been as advertised, a star safety at Georgia in 2023 and a standout in the slot in 2022. Bullard's not only in the mix to be a starting safety, but to be the top backup in the slot. A little stick of dynamite at Georgia, Bullard frequently shows up around the ball. There's been probably a half dozen swing passes or checkdowns in which Bullard has arrived at the scene instantly to make a tackle. His instincts and explosiveness have been evident, and he's not going to shy away from contact. During the first day in pads, he leveled tight end Luke Musgrave. Was that a moment he'd been looking forward to? He said, yeah, I haven't hit nobody in a long time. If you're a competitor, if you're a football player, if you're a physical guy, you can't wait for things like that. His slot reps have been dicey, and he's been beaten even by some of the deep backups during one-on-ones. However, he seems to be improving in that facet. So the other second-round pick alongside Edan Cooper, both guys coming to Green Bay this offseason in the second round. It seems like Javon Bullard is a little bit ahead of where Edan Cooper is in the linebacker room. Javon Bullard is a little bit, ahead in the safety room there. But he's still competing with Evan Williams, 4th rounder, and last year's 7th round pick, Anthony Johnson Jr. And so we'll see if he can solidify that role or if either of these other guys will solidify that role. But it's honestly been more of a competition than I thought it would have been with Javon Bullard being a second rounder. Same thing with Edan Cooper. But he seems to be still making some nice plays and showing some signs of promise according to Bill Huber. So if you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below. You can also follow me on Twitter, LukeBeller3. I also have a second channel on YouTube where I cover the rest of the NFL. I posted 3 or so videos over there earlier today, so you can check that out. Sideline Scoop NFL if you want some more NFL content. But thank you guys so much for watching. Tomorrow will be family night, and then I'll continue to cover other training camp practices as well. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys next time.